blocked evidence, and switched charges like rogue prosecutors.
In order to arrive at their Stalinistic, predetermined conclusion, House Democrats spent the last several months staging well-rehearsed hearings where the charges were drawn up by their own focus groups, Democrat donors served as witnesses, and Democrat staff served as judge and jury.
On December 7th, 1941, a horrific act happened in the United States, and it's one that President Roosevelt said, this is a date that will live in infamy. Today, December the 18th, 2019, is another date that will live in infamy.
Tom Nichols, I knew through my father and grandfather a lot of men who actually were at Pearl Harbor on December 7th. A lot of men who gave their lives in service to this country. That's just comparing the impeachment of Donald J. Trump to Pearl Harbor is shocking. It's not as shocking as, of course, saying that the Romans afforded Jesus Christ more kindness than they did Donald J. Trump. Now, I said that. Somebody's laughing. That came up twice yesterday. 2 times people said that Donald J. Trump's trials were worse than the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And Eric's a friend of mine, but we certainly don't agree on about anything as it pertains to Donald Trump. He said if Trump has not been tortured, beaten to within an inch of his life, nailed to a cross, and killed after falsely being accused, please shut up about him being treated worse than Jesus. And you should apologize. What a disgusting thing to say, particularly during a holy season. But we have seen, again, this personality cult grow. And this is, of course, the ultimate. This is the destination for such a personality cult. And how ugly it was yesterday for Republicans who, again, none of them actually defended Donald Trump's character. None of them actually said it was okay to work with a foreign adversary for campaign help. They just attacked the process and compared Democrats to Pontius Pilate and Stalin and the Japanese who killed Americans on Pearl Harbor Day.
The other word I think we need to use beyond shocking is it was obscene. Yeah. It is an obscenity to compare an impeachment conducted on the floor of the House, in front of the cameras, in full view of the people of the United States, with the attack on Pearl Harbor. One of the representatives invoked the last words of Jesus Christ, which I found personally offensive as a Christian. And I think what you're seeing, because again, you know, Joe, you and I and others here have said they don't really believe this. I mean, they know what Donald Trump did. That's why they're arguing process. They get it that if this were Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, they would have burned the White House to the ground by now. But what they're doing is they're playing to the base. They're emulating the cadences and the images and the rhetoric of Fox News, talk radio, the most extreme fringes of their party. I mean, the Republicans have turned into a walking Facebook meme because they like being in power. They like being in Congress, and that's all that matters. Staying in Washington and being in power is more important than the Constitution. It's more important than our national security. It's more important than the norms and the tradition that have sustained our country for 240 years. And they're going to do whatever they have to do. And if that means comparing this to Pearl Harbor or to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, they're going to do it.
And Willie, the infection is so widespread. We stopped being shocked by what Donald Trump did a long time ago, and then I started being shocked by how far the Republicans would go in defense of Donald Trump, and it has picked up every year. Yesterday, I saw marching into the House well to spout out nonsensical Trump talking points. That actually, I just can say, I saw Santorum last night on CNN preaching moral equivalency. Well, you know, both sides are right. Both sides have their... No, Rick, buddy, so much of what was said was factually inaccurate. Conspiracy theories spouted out about all of this starting in Ukraine, that Ukraine invaded Georgia, that this was all a Ukrainian operation, and that the Russians really didn't have that much. No, there is no moral equivalency between the facts that were presented by both sides. But, you know, Willie, yesterday I actually saw members of Congress that I worked with years ago who were quiet. They weren't backbenchers. They were quiet, powerful. There were committee people, committee chairwomen who quietly went about their business, did their job, maintained their dignity throughout this entire process, staying focused, like Paul Ryan always said he was going to stay focused on the issues. And yesterday, even they were marching into the well, talking like John Kennedy at a Trump rally. It was so distressing. They know better. They should have just remained silent to history, and yet they couldn't do it because they felt the pressure as well to besmirch their honor, to compromise their reputation in the defense of this failed reality TV host.
And we asked the question we've asked again and again in this age of our politics this last 3 or 4 years, why? Why? Is the job that great? Is the job that important that you're willing to go up and compare a constitutional impeachment process to the crucifixion of Christ so that you don't get primaried or lose your job or whatever your reason is? Is the job that good? Is it that important that you're willing to bend the knee to Donald Trump and compare it to Pearl Harbor? It was astounding what we heard yesterday in the well there, Elise. And there was another moment from Congressman Bill Johnson of Ohio. So we had Pearl Harbor, we had Joe McCarthy, we had the crucifixion of Christ, the Salem witch trials, and then we had this moment of silence. Watch.
This is a sad day for America. This partisan impeachment sham seeks to disenfranchise 63 million American voters. So I want to use my time to call on this chamber for members to rise and observe a moment of silent reflection, to give every member here the chance to pause for a moment and remember the voices of the 63 million American voters the Democrats today are wanting to silence.
And then, Elise, there was the extended moment of silence as proposed by the congressman there. For the 63 million voters, President Trump is still in office, we should point out, and likely will remain in office after it passes through the Senate, so nothing's been overturned or reversed. But just one of the many stunts we saw yesterday. In terms of a stunt, that one at least reassured me because you just didn't have to listen to anything during the silence. And you got to almost just revel in how insane the day had gotten by that point. And it at least just was jarring enough just because after so much nonsense, after hearing Donald Trump compared to, Jesus being nailed to a cross and tortured, after hearing Republicans compare Democrats to Joe McCarthy, to Joseph Stalin, to, the Pearl Harbor, it had gotten simply so ridiculous. And of all the comparisons, the Jesus one bothers me the most, just because it's so sacrilegious. But also, I wonder if you're comparing Donald Trump's travails this week with impeachment to what Jesus Christ went through, how are you going to feel at your candlelight service on Christmas Eve when you actually are dealing with Christmas, that you've been so upset about Christ being taken out of Christmas, but then suddenly you've elevated Donald Trump to suffer more than Jesus Christ? It's just kind of an interesting conundrum for those evangelicals who put themselves behind that line of argument yesterday.